Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I am going to start with the brake conversion, basically full brake job on my Cobra. As I had mentioned in the last video, I'm going to be doing the retrofit. I may have misspoke. What I have here is they are the 11.65 inch Cobra Rotors. I drilled those in the last video to be 4-lug pattern, so they'll fit the axles that I have. I'm going to be using the 45 millimeter Thunderbird rear calipers. I have the Hawk 5.0 street pads that I'm going to be using with these calipers. I have the North Race Cars brackets and their emergency brake cables. I got adapters from Supercoupes Unlimited to fit the 45 millimeter calipers with the 11.65 rotors, so I'm going to have all that stuff put together. And then I have all of the lines I received for doing the rear brake conversion I ordered from Maximum Motorsports. I have their hardline kit that's made for a Fox body Mustang, and then I did get the 94 to 95 Cobra Master cylinder, and I have the Maximum Motorsports lines for adapting that in, as well as the Willwood proportioning valve for controlling the rears. So also have their stainless lines from Maximum Motorsports, and then I ordered a set of the Russell stainless braided lines for the front calipers as well as the rear T-fittings. So have everything I need, so I'm going to go ahead and get started on doing this. I'm going to start with pulling the rear end apart, getting that all disassembled. I got to take the pumpkin off, or the pumpkin cover off, so I can get the axles out, and then I can get the drums pulled and go from there. Okay, update time. Got the drums off, pulled the hard lines off, and pulled the diff cover off, drained the fluid, and was able to get the the passenger side axle out, and I have all the braking parts from the passenger side out right now. So next step is I got to look up the North Race Cars instructions real quick, just to make sure I have everything in order as far as how the brackets go on for their caliper retrofit kit, and then I can start assembling the passenger side, get that buttoned up, and then once everything is buttoned up on that side, I can pull the driver's side axle and do the same over there. One note, as you probably saw in that quick pan, I did have to pull the battery out. This vehicle does still have the battery that is mounted in the trunk area underneath the car. It was in the way of the diff coverage, made it easier to drop the battery out of the way. So more to come. I'm going to get back to work. All right, so we have found brain fart number one of this project. Being that I'm using, different adapters and whatnot to try and make things fit, I forgot to take into account and check to see how these two adapters would play together. As you can see here, they don't line up. I need to do some trimming to the North Race Car bracket, just grind it down a little bit so I can get the holes to line up and bolt everything together. Kind of sucks because I had already, as you can see, mounted this on the axle, went to put the caliper on to check fitment, and went, oh no, it's not going to go on. So that is what I'm going to do now. Take this to the grinder, clean that edge up, flatten it out somewhat, and then I should be able to bolt these two brackets together. All right, so I went ahead and I ground down the brackets and sprayed them with a little bit of paint to touch up the fresh areas. So those are just finishing up drying right now. What I did in the meantime is I pulled the driver's side axle out and removed the drum brake parts from the driver's side. So that is now all disassembled, ready for reassembly. The brackets should be dry at this point in time because it was probably about an hour ago that I sprayed them. They should be usable as long as I don't touch those direct areas that I touched up. So I'm going to go ahead and start trying to put the passenger side back together and see what we come up with. All right, time for another update. Looking at the differential, I have gone ahead and put the brackets on. Everything is assembled there. I did check clearances with a rotor and one of the calipers. Everything fits fine. So I did put the brackets on, the 4 factory bolts, and then I torqued the 2 bolts that came with the adapter brackets from Supercoupes Unlimited. to 75 foot-pounds, and then used blue Loctite. Axles are in, C-clips are back in, and I did just finish torquing the pin bolt to 20 foot-pounds with blue Loctite as well. Kind of glad I got in here because I was able to verify this thing does have 373 gears in the rear. And then just to show you real quick what it looks like, here you can see the North Race Cars bolt bracket installed, and then the Supercoupes Unlimited bracket is installed as well. Those two Allen head bolts, those are the ones I was talking about that are torqued to 75 foot-pounds, and I used blue Loctite on them as well. So next step is I'm going to work on getting the pumpkin cover back on, refill the differential, get that all sealed up before I start doing anything as far as plumbing brake lines or installing calipers and rotors. All right, and I went ahead and got the diff cover installed. This is just kind of a knockoff eBay one of all of the ones that are engraved and have a different name on them. Fit fine, no issues with it. Used Right Stuff gray. I'm going to let it sit overnight before I put any fluid in it. But everything's torqued, as well as the supports, the girdles for the two bearing caps. I got those torqued per the instructions. I just use the instructions from Moser, from their version of this that's available online. As you can see, the battery tray threaded rods are pretty close to it. I won't know for sure until I get the tray in there how the fitment is. I might have to cut those, shorten them up a little bit because they were pretty long. I mean, there was a good 4 inches of thread below the battery tray. So more to come on that. But yeah, I'm going to let this sit overnight before I put anything in it. So I think next on the list will be starting to put together the rotors and calipers. All right, so here we go. This is rotor installed with the 45 millimeter Thunderbird caliper using the Supercoupes Unlimited brackets. I installed the Hawk 5.0 pads in the caliper. The calipers came with metal clips or metal sliders or whatever to go inside there. There's no way that those Hawk pads are going to fit with those sliders, so I just installed the pads directly into the caliper bracket using the Hawk grease. They're just too thick. I mean, I got one in and I had to wedge the pad in. There was no way I was going to get the other side in, so made that judgment call to leave that out. So I got everything bolted up, but I did find the next issue with this swap. As you can see, the rotor will not move. It's hitting the caliper bracket. So I did read that this was a potential issue with this swap from Supercoupes Unlimited. So basically what I'm going to have to do is just take the caliper bracket off and just do a little grinding to it, clearance it. You can see, it's basically touching right there. Sorry, it's a little dark. I had to close the garage because it started raining and it's blowing in. So, but the caliper bracket is touching the rotor. So that is going to be next on the to-do list. It's been a pretty full day. I think I am going to call it a day right now, so that'll be a tomorrow problem. I'm pretty happy with what I got knocked out today. I was hoping to have everything done on the rear, but you know how things go. Run into issues, it delays things. Most jobs normally take twice as long as you anticipate they will. So, but all in all, a lot of what I've run into is pretty expected, and when you're using multiple different parts and trying to make them work together, stuff happens. So. Think that's it for today, so I will start up again tomorrow. All right, it's the next day, and we're back to work on the rear brakes. Went ahead and took the caliper mounting bracket and tacked it with my die grinder a little bit, and now we are good to go. We've got free clearance, plenty of room. You can see air now, or see daylight now between the caliper bracket and the rotor, so good to go on both sides, or for both ends of this bracket. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish putting this caliper back together, and then I'll get to work on the other side and get the other caliper all mounted and put into place. All right, and here we go. Right side completely reassembled. Again, I did try and use those two little right there shims that came with the brake caliper. And again, there's no way to put the pads in using those, so I think those may be for a different application or whatnot, or if you have different size pads. I don't know, these Hawk pads though, even with one in place I couldn't get the pad in there, so they're a tight fit just on their own. So pads are in, caliper is on. I torqued the second set of Allen head bolts similar to the first set, so the 4 bolts that are for the adapter bracket to go between the North Race cars brackets and the caliper. They're all torqued to 75 foot-pounds, and I did use blue Loctite on all those as well. But as you can see, spins free, no noise, so we are all set on this side. I'm gonna go get to work on the driver's side. And here we go, driver's bracket is installed. Kind of funny. When I put this on initially, just to see how much I was gonna have to grind off of it, I noticed that there were some grinding marks in the areas where it would have to be cleaned up. These, both these calipers are remanufactured calipers, so looks like somebody else had done something similar or whatnot. Not sure where these came from, but put it on and it actually only needed a very little amount of cleanup on this side, whereas the other side was a fresh casting and needed to be ground down pretty hard. This one just had to do a little bit of touch up in a few spots, but we are good to go. Everything nice and smooth, no noises. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the pads and everything on here, get everything torqued to spec, and then everything will be installed as far as the calipers go. And complete. Driver's side assembly is put into place, everything lined up good, everything's bolted on fine, spins freely, no issues there, so we are good to go. All you're hearing there is the brake pad on the back rubbing it a little bit, but yeah, as far as the bracket clearance goes, we are all set there. You can see daylight where you need to, so we're good to go. I'm gonna go ahead. Next on the list is to get the rear end filled with oil. I wanted to let the gasket sealer cure overnight before I put any lubricant in it. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. What I am using is Redline. I'm a big fan of this stuff. I've always used it on Fords. It's the 75W140 full synthetic, and this does have the friction modifier that is required for the limited slip differential. Update time. All right, so I went ahead and I have refilled the differential with the gear oil. Took just over 2 quarts with these with the oversized cover. So if you're going to be doing this, plan on having 3 quarts just to be safe. So that's all set. As you can see, I also started laying out the hard lines. Again, I got the pre-bent rear line kit from Maximum Motorsports, which has a bunch of brackets, the lines that are bent to fit the differential. I also installed the Russell rear braided line that came with the 3-line kit. It's bolted up to the hard mount up on the body, and then I have it just kind of laying on top of the differential. This is one thing I wanted to discuss that I forgot to bring up yesterday. When I removed the old one, the junction block that the 2 lines that go to each side bolt to, from the factory it is hard mounted to a bracket that bolts to the differential. Down at the flange, down there, you can see a hole barely. When I went to take it off, the stud snapped. It was just corroded, snapped, and the bracket itself didn't look to be in the best position or best condition. A lot of the rear upper lines don't include the bracket. They basically say take your stock bracket, cut it, drill a hole, and just kind of make it work. I know J&M's actually comes with the bracket, and then some of the aftermarket, just OEM replacement style, will come with the bracket, and then they're hard mounted. What I did is, I don't want to try and mess with that one, being that the stud is already snapped off of it and it's corroded. I ordered a Dorman replacement OEM style hose that has the bracket mounted to it off of Amazon for like 20 bucks. I'm going to cut the bracket off of that and then drill a hole, and I'll mount the braided Russell line to that. So I should have that coming tomorrow from Amazon. So that's the plan there as far as that goes. But for now, I'm gonna go ahead and get all these lines installed, get the rear plumbed, so that will pretty much finish up what I need to do on the rear axle, and then I can move to getting the front brakes installed, as well as the new master cylinder and the proportioning valve and whatnot, and get everything finished plumbed. All right, and here we are. All of the rear lines have been installed, torqued, and everything is ready to go as far as bleeding the rear brakes once I have everything done in the front. You can see the stainless braided lines, goes to the hard line, the mounts that come with the Maximum Motorsports kit. I followed the instructions, pretty straightforward. You do have to replace a little mount tab there by removing the vent, pretty easy. And then same thing, another isolated holder there, and the stainless braided line. There's a mount for where the hard line meets the stainless braided line that just gets hose clamped onto the end of the axle. So pretty straightforward. Like I said, everything is torqued up to spec. The instructions have everything you need. The only thing I'll have to do in the back here is, like I said previously, once I get that new upper line, I'll cut the bracket off and make a bracket for mounting that piece right there. But yeah, good to go on the rear. So next we'll be replacing the master, the front calipers, pads, lines, and some of the hard lines, as well as installing a proportioning valve. I am going to end the video here at this point. It's kind of a good spot to take a break as far as the rears go. One thing I do still need to do that I haven't done yet is install the emergency brake cables, but that's pretty straightforward and not really needed at this point in time. So yeah, I'm going to call it on this video at this point. Hope you enjoyed everything. If you did, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. There will be a lot more to come as far as Cobra and Ford content goes. And thanks for watching. Have a great day.